Welcome back to another mail day, guys. I'm very excited to show you what I was able to pick up over the course of the last week or so for my February purchases, quote unquote. Hey, but it's a great week. We have baseball coming back at the end of the week. We have our first spring training game coming up on Thursday. So we are just right around the corner now from seeing spring training games every day and working towards opening day. I also picked up my baseball tickets for the year for White Sox games. Pretty excited about that. And yeah, let's get started with the mail day. We got the Chicago Sports Spectacular coming up in a month too. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'll be going to that show. I'll talk a little bit more about that probably in future videos. All right, so as you can see, this is actually a 48 Bowman mail day. Obviously the set that's known for having several key rookies in it. Black and white photos is kind of one of the things that people either like or don't like about it, but I think the size of the set and the lack of sort of star power beyond the Musial and Yogi rookies are kind of the biggest things that kind of get criticized with this set, but I love it. So I had two purchases, one from the same set, or two separate sellers, and I bought 2 cards from one and 3 from the other. Let's start with the 3-card purchase first. So this guy was just accepting offers. I didn't really have to negotiate much at all. And he had a few cards. So let's pick up with the one I got originally that kind of brought me to this dealer's attention. And that would be the 48 Bowman Hank Sauer, which this is a pretty interesting card. Not just because it's his rookie card, but because his story is this. So he came up in the 41 season, didn't play much at the end of the season, came up again in 42, kind of the same story, and then he was off to the war. Came back from the war, and the Reds kind of buried him in their organization's minor leagues, and he really didn't come to the league until he was about 30, 31 years old, and he went on to have quite a career, so it's kind of a shame. Talk about players who missed some time because of World War II. Well, this guy kind of missed his chance to feature on a major league team in his 20s and had to wait till he was in his 30s. And he was very good. He went on to win an MVP later in 1952. But as you can see, I mean, he was born in 1919, so he really didn't kind of really get into the league until he was much, much older. Yeah, so that was the first card I got, and I was able to pick it up for my set. So I'll just kind of move these along and kind of put these in the background. So we got Hank over here. So from the same seller, he had a few more Bowman cards for the 48 set, already SGC graded, some that I already had. So I put an offer in on the Whitey Lockman. Whitey Lockman, kind of known locally as the manager of the Cubs in the early 70s after Leo DeRocher was let go. But I already had his card. I picked it up at some point along the line, but this is a much better copy of it. So this will go for sale, and this will remain in my collection. So I was happy to pick that up as a 4. We'll take down Warren Spahn autograph back there, which are from '01 Heritage. So we got these here. And then from the final card I got from the seller, same story here. Got the Allie Reynolds. So it's a really good condition despite being off-center, but it's also a card that I picked up recently. So in looking at the one I have, I think it might actually be a better conditioned card. So I'm going to look at it more closely just to make sure I'm comfortable with it going off for grading. And if I am, I'm going to try and maybe get this graded while I'm at the Chicago Sports Spectacular. So put it in with the order there and see what it comes back as, and sell the higher graded one, or sell the lower graded one and see where it goes. But if I make a determination I don't want to put it in for grading, I'm actually going to put it up for sale, and I'm going to try and look at it more closely today and make that decision. So stay tuned. I might have that one up for sale for somebody that might be interested in the future. But beautiful Allie Reynolds cards. It's his rookie too. It's also Hank Sauer's rookie card, as well as Whitey Lockman. And the other dealer, I was able to pick up 2 different cards from him. This one took a little bit more negotiation. He was a little reluctant to let these go at the prices I was wanting to pay, but eventually we came to an understanding that I was kind of comfortable with, and I think he was comfortable with, obviously, because he accepted the offers. And we'll start with, let's start with the Cardinal. Let's start with Marty Marion. So the 1944 MVP, who probably didn't need to be the MVP. So the 44 is the season where the St. Louis teams were in the World Series. It was the only World Series that ever featured the St. Louis Browns. So the home park was the same park for both teams during that World Series, and the Cardinals went on to win that World Series, I believe 4-2. Marty Marion was the MVP for that season. And looking back at his numbers, kind of looking at it in the retrospect of today's view using WAR, he is kind of far behind a few other guys that actually got less votes beneath him, including his teammate, which actually led the league in WAR that year, which was Stan Musial. So I guess if you had to re-vote again, looking at the 44th season, probably would put Musial in there over Marion. But obviously, I think Marion was known a lot for his leadership and his strong defense. And at that point, he was kind of a mainstay in the Cardinals organization, and I think was very popular. So I think he got the win because he was just a little bit more known and popular, and had one of his better overall kind of seasons in 44. But I would kind of look at it back in history and say that Stan Musial probably should have won it. I think his WAR was almost at like 3 to 4 higher than Marion. But, you know, different times, different sort of criteria for voting in some ways, and the ways that the writers looked at it. And the final purchase I got from him was one I was really excited to get. And I was looking at this card for a while to be able to add it into my set. And this goes on this sort of file of the stars of yesteryear that a lot of people have kind of forgotten about, even though I've found some cool videos that I will kind of share with you in the future when I do a little bit more of a player profile on him that I'm planning to do. And that's Pete Reiser. Pete Reiser was a real star for the Brooklyn Dodgers during the early 40s and was a big part of their team in 41 that reached the World Series, which was the first time they reached the World Series in about 20 years, and kind of kicked off the whole Dodgers being in the World Series and playing the Yankees. They lost that World Series to the Yankees in 41. But it was his first full season, and he should have won the MVP, and it went to his teammate. So I'm hoping to kind of look at breaking that one down a little bit more, maybe doing a little bit more of a video on that topic, and maybe doing he and Marion and kind of talking about the MVP voting back in the 1940s and just how weird and wild the 40s were, especially once the war hit and a lot of players were out of the league. It's kind of a really weird time to kind of look back on, because you see a lot of players who were playing well after their time, kind of just hanging on, filling out rosters, and some people who never belonged probably in the major league level that were filling out rosters. And somehow, you know, the Yankees still were able to kind of win a few championships during that time frame, but it was pretty slim pickings on their rosters. But there we go. Those are the 4 I got. Definitely some stars here and some MVP winners as well. But obviously no Hall of Famers in this purchase this month. So it gets me down now to, I need 13 more unique player cards. I have 2 more Hall of Famers and then 1 really big semi-star in there too. And I think everything else is pretty much a common card. So I'm excited to maybe get a lot of those in this very quickly over the course of the next couple months and get it down to the Yogi, the Red Shandies, and the Bobby Thompson card are probably the last 3 big purchases for this set. So hope you guys enjoyed this. And I'll be back soon, very soon, hopefully, maybe even as early as Monday, Tuesday, maybe at the latest with my next video. So have a great weekend.